So we're joined by Adam Andrzejewski of OpenTheBooks.com. OpenTheBooks is a non-profit government watchdog organization focused on more transparency, advocating for more transparency around government spending. Adam, great to see you. Merry Christmas. Thanks for coming on.
Merry Christmas, Paul.
Maybe I should say Festivus. Maybe this Festivus, Adam, I'll give you a chance to air any grievances you may have. How difficult or how easy has it been for you this year to track the government spending that's been happening?
Well, let's just use a term from the military, Paul. It's a target-rich environment for waste, fraud, corruption, and taxpayer abuse. And this goes back over the last couple of decades, but is peaking right now in real time. I mean, if you remember back at the start of the George W. Bush administration, our national debt was shy of $6 trillion. Today, we're pushing $30 trillion. So it is definitely a target-rich environment for a watchdog like our organization at OpenTheBooks.com.
You had a couple of big cases, one in California, I believe. You want to give us an update on that one?
Well, we sued the state comptroller, Betty Yee, over the state checkbook. She admits to paying 50 million bills last year, yet she refused to produce a single transaction subject to our Freedom of Information Act request for the line-by-line expenditures in state government. California is the only state out of the 50 states not to turn over their line-by-line payments. We expect to win that case. The judge is writing an order right now. He's been diligent and thoughtful, and hopefully he'll begin the process of forcing them to turn over the spending records.
We see in Senator Rand Paul's new report there's a number of COVID-related, stimulus package-related expenditures he doesn't necessarily agree with. Whether the spending was justified or not justified, it was a massive spending spree over the past 18 months to combat COVID economically. How difficult has it been for an organization like yourselves to make sure the money is going to the right places?
So I think just the sheer amount of the taxpayer-provided largesse on COVID aid has made it difficult to track versus a normal year. However, our auditors at OpenTheBooks.com, I think we've done a really good job of tracking these payments. Here's what we forecast. We forecast that 1 out of every $4 of money that Congress provided on unemployment benefits and insurance payments to people who had real needs, people who lost their jobs during the pandemic, it'll be stolen by the criminals, the crime artists, and the crime syndicates. And that's, we think it's going to be $200 billion by the time they get around to start counting all of the fraud in that system. You know, and then there's been microcosm examples like, for instance, the company that does Hamilton. They've been bailed out for $50 million of COVID aid. Or, you know, the 50 richest places in America, which were bailed out for about $100 million worth of COVID aid. You know, some of these examples, they didn't need to be bailed out, but they took the money anyway.
It's massive figures when you go through them like that, unprecedented almost. And maybe, Adam, it's Christmas time, maybe give us something you're hopeful for coming up to the new year.
Well, I'm hopeful that the 8 colleges of the Ivy League lighten the load on the American taxpayer a little bit, Paul. We just highlighted 2 grants that the Ivy League took. So Brown's an Ivy League college. They got about $6 billion in their endowment. They don't need taxpayer help, but they took $1.7 million in federal grants to study overweight turkeys. They actually put turkeys on treadmills, and here's the conclusion, that the fat turkeys that have been domesticated run slower than their wild turkey counterparts. So Brown should stop being a turkey. We're hopeful that that would happen in 2022. Here's another example. Harvard University. They got $50 billion in their endowment. They don't need a taxpayer subsidy, but they just took a $75,000 grant and they put lizards on trees. They bought high-powered leaf blowers and they studied blowing the lizards off the trees. I kid you not. So we're hopeful that in 2022 that the Ivy League lightens the load on the American taxpayers and stops taking these frivolous federal grants.
Well, Adam, I wonder who's going to get these turkeys come Christmas time. I think that's the big question, right? Adam Andrzejewski, OpenTheBooks.com. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas. See you soon.
Merry Christmas, Paul.